The night was still, but something powerful was brewing in the quiet streets of Abeokuta. It was 1918, and tension filled the air as a group of determined women gathered under the cover of darkness. These were the Egba women, renowned for their resilience and grit. They whispered in low voices, their plans unfolding with a fierceness that defied the fear surrounding them. The British colonial government had imposed suffocating taxes on their people, cutting into their livelihoods and pushing their families closer to poverty. But the women of Abeokuta weren't about to stand by and let their lives be controlled. As dawn approached, these women were ready to make history, transforming their anger and resolve into one of Nigeria's most remarkable acts of resistance, the Egba women's anti-tax right. If you're captivated by these untold tales of bravery and unity, this is just the beginning. Subscribe now to discover more riveting stories that celebrate the courage of those who dare to fight for justice, freedom, and dignity. The story of the Egba women is only one chapter in a vast book of African history that reveals the strength and spirit of everyday heroes. In the early 20th century, colonial rule in Nigeria was a heavy burden. The British had established direct control over the Egba region, implementing steep taxes on the people of Abeokuta, particularly on the women who served as the backbone of the local economy. These taxes weren't just numbers, they directly impacted market traders, farmers, and artisans who relied on their earnings to support their families. For the Egba women, the tax was a form of oppression that left them with less food on their tables and fewer resources for their children. But beyond the economic hardship, it was an insult, a violation of their rights, and an outright attack on their community. The Egba women were no strangers to hardship, but this tax crossed the line. They saw their money siphoned off to fund a colonial system that cared nothing for their well-being. The community's leaders, who should have defended them, did nothing to stop the injustice. But these women knew that change wouldn't come from silence. If no one else would fight for them, they would fight for themselves. Under the cloak of secrecy, women from every corner of Abeokuta gathered to strategize. They met in each other's homes, marketplaces, and secluded areas, sharing their stories and fueling each other's determination. As word of the tax protest spread, more women joined, lending their voices to a movement that would soon shake the colonial authorities to their core. They decided to confront not only the British but also the local chiefs who had allowed such an oppressive tax to take root. These women had a plan, and they weren't going to back down. They knew their numbers were their strength. In Abeokuta streets, their powerful voices would echo against the British authorities, making it clear that the people of Nigeria would not be subdued. The Egba women organized marches, meetings, and rallies, drawing in support from across the community. The day came when the Egba women took their protest to the streets in a display of unity and determination that the colonial rulers could never have anticipated. Thousands of women marched, their voices loud and strong, singing songs of defiance and demanding justice. They rallied in front of government offices, confronting the colonial officials and making it clear that they would no longer accept the taxes that were strangling their families and draining their resources. This was no ordinary protest, it was a community-wide revolt. But it wasn't just about the taxes. The Egba women used their protests to challenge the power of the British colonial government and to confront their own traditional leaders who had failed to protect them. In one of the most striking acts of defiance, the women staged symbolic mock funerals to represent the death of fairness and justice in Abeokuta. These gestures showed their fellow Egba citizens, and even the British, that they were serious. They were fighting for the soul of their community. The Egba women's anti-tax right left a profound impact, one that rippled far beyond Abeokuta. The British colonial government, stunned by the power of this movement, was forced to rethink its tax policies. Although the struggle did not result in an immediate end to the taxes, the Egba women's actions sent a message: the people of Nigeria would not be crushed by colonial exploitation. The Egba women showed that, even under the most oppressive systems, a community's unity and strength could lead to real change. Their protest inspired similar movements across the region, including the historic Aba Women's Revolt of 1929. Today, the legacy of the Egba women lives on as a powerful example of resistance, courage, and the power of community. They remind us that change is possible when people come together, stand up for their rights, and refuse to let injustice go unchallenged. These women were more than just protesters, they were pioneers who set the stage for the generations of activists that would come after them. The story of the Egba women's anti-tax right is just one of the many incredible narratives that make up Nigeria's history. These are stories of bravery, resilience, and the unbreakable spirit of communities united in the fight for justice. If you're inspired by the Egba women's journey, there's so much more to discover. Subscribe now to dive into a world of fascinating tales that uncover the richness of African history, filled with figures who fought against oppression and stood tall in the face of adversity. Thank you for joining us, and remember, this is just the beginning. There are countless more stories waiting to be told. Hit that subscribe button, and let's keep the legacy of these incredible women alive.